Crazy Horse, Tashunke Wheatco, born in the early 1840s in the Black Hills of South Dakota, was an important leader and head of his tribe, the Oglala Lakota. He took a stand against the U.S. government to preserve the right of the Lakota to live peacefully on their land and not conform to the ways of the whites. By taking a stand, he instilled in his people a lasting spirit of resilience, which continues to guide his people today. In the mid-1800s, the Lakota Indians were one of the largest tribes in the Great Plains. Their land spread from the Missouri River to the Bighorn Mountains in the west. They were sovereign and powerful until the whites came. In the early 1850s, white settlers started moving west onto the Indian territories, and as more settlers arrived, friction between the whites and Indians escalated. Treaties such as the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1851, signed by many chiefs, including Chief Spotted Tail and Red Cloud, were created to attempt peace, but proved to be unsuccessful. Only to the white man was nature a wilderness, and only to him was the land infested with wild animals and savage people. To us it was tame. Not till the hairy man from the east came, and with brutal frenzy heaped injustices upon us and the families that we loved, was it wild for us. Crazy Horse witnessed the senseless violence between the whites and the Indians. One such incident was the Grattan Massacre of 1854, where Chief Conquering Bear was killed over a petty misunderstanding. This massacre formed Crazy Horse's opinion of the white man for as long as he lived, and served as the catalyst for 30 years of ensuing strife and battle. As a teenager, Crazy Horse set out on his vision quest, a tradition amongst Indian male youth. His vision came to him in a dream, and in his vision he was told to seek simplicity, to take nothing for himself, and always give to his people. He was to stop wearing a war bonnet, and was advised to cover himself and his horse in dirt for protection in battle. He was also told that he would face difficulties fighting for what he believed, and that he'd be betrayed by some of his own. Crazy Horse wore a stone talisman and a single eagle feather in his hair, and lived by this vision for the rest of his life. Crazy Horse earned his name from his father at the age of 18 after a successful battle with the Arapaho. As a young man, a strong character, and a successful warrior, by age 20, Crazy Horse had fully gained the trust of his people and was seen as a wise and noble person, ready to stand against the enemy, to protect his people, and regain their freedom. He was a very quiet man except when there was fighting, and would say in battle, "It is a good day to fight, it is a good day to die. Strong heart, brave hearts to the front, weak heart and cowards to the rear." Crazy Horse always led his men himself when they went into battle, and kept well in front of them. By 1866, travel on the Bozeman Trail increased. The government set up forts along the trail to allow easy passage to the mines, and after repeated attacks from Indians, particularly after Fetterman's defeat by Crazy Horse, fear and anxiety increased among the settlers, making them flee. With this victory, Crazy Horse was appointed shirtwearer and official chief of his tribe. He dealt with all the affairs of the tribe, decision for wars, and protection of his people in their honor. In the spring of 1868, a new draft of the Fort Laramie Treaty was created, promising the Black Hills to the Lakota. The council was attended by many chiefs, including Crazy Horse. Red Cloud and Spotted Tail agreed to live on the reservation and conform, eventually joining the camps at Fort Robinson. But Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull would not agree to give up their lands and way of life, for they no longer trusted the whites who had previously broken treaties. 6 years after its signing, the treaty was broken by the whites. In 1874, General Custer led an expedition in search of gold in the Black Hills, and the government's pressure on the Indians to turn over more of the Black Hills increased. Crazy Horse refused to do so, for it was the essence of his people. On December 6, 1875, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs ordered that all free-roaming bands of Lakota Indians must move back to reservations by January 31, 1876, or be killed. Crazy Horse did not respond to this ultimatum, and instead joined the resistance against this act. On June 17, General Crook, aided by some Crow and Shoshone soldiers, pursued Crazy Horse and waged war on his tribe. Crazy Horse and his men defeated Crook's army in this battle, the Battle of the Rosewood. Following Crook's defeat, on June 22, General Terry sent Custer and the 7th Cavalry in an intensified pursuit of Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull's trail. With Custer boasting that he could whip all the Indians on the continent with the 7th Cavalry, attacked early on June 25th, but Crazy Horse and his men were prepared and killed Custer and his army. After this great victory at the Little Bighorn, the Indians thought they had won over their enemy and celebrated by moving back on their land, regaining the Dakota Territory. Crazy Horse was more than ever hailed by his tribe as a brave and skillful leader who stood for the protection of his people and regained their land. At the same time, the U.S. Army was equally impressed with Crazy Horse's leadership and skills, and were intensifying their efforts and planning a retaliation with the goal of annihilating the Indians. This victory and his increased following resulted in jealousy from other chiefs, such as Red Cloud and Spotted Tail, whom the government would send to persuade Crazy Horse to come to Fort Robinson. With further relentless pursuit from the military, Crazy Horse and his band grew weaker from cold and hunger. In the best interest of his band, Crazy Horse decided that it was time to surrender. So on May 6, 1877, Crazy Horse and his band arrived at Fort Robinson and surrendered all they had. Crazy Horse and his people camped a few miles from Fort Robinson. and Colonel Miles wanted Crazy Horse to move to Fort Robinson to become a scout leader. Crazy Horse refused to do such a thing and wanted nothing to do with the army. He had been asked to go to Washington to choose a place for his reservation and to stop fighting. Crazy Horse agreed and said he only came for peace. He wanted his agency placed on Beaver Creek in the Black Hills. Though when Crazy Horse heard that the trip to Washington was a trap, he decided not to go, but he still wanted the agency to be placed on Beaver Creek. On September 1st or 2nd, Crazy Horse was visited by 2 white soldiers who brought him a gift of 2 cigars and a knife to lure him to the fort by saying there would be a council meeting. Crazy Horse did not like the gifts and the way they shook hands, for he felt that meant there was going to be trouble at the council. A day prior to his death, when Crazy Horse did not attend the council, it was said that he had escaped camp with part of his band the previous day, and was eventually found and brought to Fort Robinson by scouts from the Red Cloud and Spotted Tail agencies on September 4th, 1877. On September 5th, 1877, he was killed. On the day of his assassination, he was led to the jailhouse, and as Little Big Men held him by the hands, Crazy Horse tried to cut him. But Red Cloud shouted to the soldier, "Shoot to kill!" And the soldier stabbed Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse yelled to the people, "You all coaxed me over here," and then ran away and left me. He was stabbed mortally in the kidneys and near the heart. He was seen by Dr. McGillicuddy, who highly respected Crazy Horse, but nothing could be done for him. At about 11 p.m. that night, as his life was fast ebbing, the bugler wailed out the call, "Lights out, go to sleep." It brought back to him the old battles. He struggled to arise, and there came from his lips his old rallying cry, "A good day to fight, a good day to die, brave hearts." And his voice ceased. It was a scene never to be forgotten, an Indian epic. Crazy Horse was 36, and his assassination was unnecessary, uncalled for, and inexcusable, although it was largely misrepresented by authorities as a death brought about by his own violence. His grave remains unknown today, only known to his family. But he needs no marker, for the earth is his marker, as his spirit lives on, the spirit of the Lakota.
Really, a hero and really a champion, and he accomplished so much in his real short life. He inspired so many people. So so that I think just like my own personal view is what I stated earlier, in that he was the champion of the Lakota way of life, which is diametrically opposed to the advance of material civilization.
On the 57th year of Crazy Horse's assassination, on September 5th, 1934, Fort Robinson, Nebraska placed a monument on those very grounds. There was music, dance, and celebration. More than half a century later, the U.S. remembered him for his life and vision. In 1982, a postage stamp was created with the image of Crazy Horse. There is an annual 4-day ride starting from Fort Robinson, Nebraska, camping at Chardon on the way to Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota in honor of him. My fellow chiefs and I would like the white man to know the red man has great heroes also. Chief Henry Standing Bear wrote those memorable words in a letter in 1939, inviting Korczak Ziolkowski, an award-winning sculptor who had been assistant to Borglum in the carving of Mount Rushmore, to the Black Hills to carve a mountain memorial of Crazy Horse. After carefully studying about Crazy Horse and the native cultures, Korczak was convinced that Crazy Horse's story was an epic that he could memorialize on a mountain, and accepted his mammoth past. He visited Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in 1940 to discuss plans for the project that would depict Crazy Horse, based on descriptions of his appearance by those who knew him, with his hair blowing in the wind, riding horseback, with his left hand stretched out, pointing in the distance, as if answering the question he was once asked by a white man, "Where are your lands now?" To which he had replied, "My lands are where my dead lay buried." The work on this largest mountain carving in the world, started by Korczak with very little means and much hardship in 1948, continues today by his children and families in the Black Hills, where Crazy Horse had wanted to live and fought so hard to protect. The Crazy Horse Memorial Foundation aims to teach his story and to preserve and showcase the native cultures and traditions, and plans an entire educational campus around the memorial, with the Indian University of North America, the Medical Training Center, the Living and Learning Center, and the Native American Museum. Crazy Horse had told his people, "I will return to you in the stone," and he surely has. Crazy Horse is the soul of the Black Hills, the spirit of the Lakota, and the symbol of Lakota resistance. The Lakota and other natives continue to stand for their rights and for the preservation of their culture and their homelands, most recently dealing with the Dakota Access Pipeline. They continue to find strength in their rich heritage and in the resilience instilled in them by the Lakota chief, Crazy Horse, who never signed a treaty, never permitted his photo be taken, and always took a stand for his people against injustice.